So this is Dan of Vagabond Awake, and today we have someone new on the channel, Eric.
Hello.
Lovely to have you on the channel.
Pleasure to meet you finally. I've been admiring you and watching your video for years.
Well, thank you.
Videos for years.
Perfect. So Eric, where in the world are you from, and where are we sitting right now?
Well, I'm originally from the New York City area, Long Island, but I spent most of my career outside Washington, D.C., and we are in the amazing, lovely, incredible tropical island paradise of Penang, Malaysia.
That's great. So how long have you been living here in Penang?
Almost 2 years, about 1 3/4 years.
Right.
So I got my visa in January, and I moved here in March, and that was of 2024.
Okay.
And now it's July.
October?
No, it's October now of 2025.
Yeah.
Since I've been retired, I often don't know the day of the week. I usually know the year and month, but I failed this time.
That's one of the greatest benefits.
Exactly.
No, you look too young to retire.
Oh, thank you so much. Can I give you a hug afterwards?
What is the rule of 55, and how did it let you retire early?
Oh, it has changed my life. So I was 54 years old. I'm 56 now. And I was in the year I turned 55, which is 2024. It's an IRS rule that a lot of people don't know about. Most people think in the States that you have to be 59 and a half in order to get into your 401k or a similar type of program. But they changed the rules, I don't even know, maybe 8 or 10 years ago. They added an exception. So if in the year you turn 55, so I wasn't even 55 yet. So as of January of 2024, in my case, I could get into my previous employer's 401k as long as I terminated my employment, fired, quit, doesn't matter, in the year you turn 55. So in my case, I basically stopped working in December of 2023, but I just burned up my vacation time in 2024. And I still helped a little bit with my replacement, training him, and I was bored, so I joined some conference calls and stuff like that. But my actual termination date was in March of 2024. And again, I wasn't even 55 yet, I was close. But the way the IRS looks at it is, if it's in the year you turn 55 and you terminate, you have full access, no 10% penalty, no nothing. And that's been my lifeline around here, just that 401k.
So does that mean in the 12 months after the day you turn 55, or is that in the year?
Oh, just the year. So in my case, I was still 54 years old, and it was March of 2024, but I terminated my employment. And that, it took a little while. The US government is a little bit slow. There's a lot of bureaucracy. It took about 90 or so days for one part of the government, the HR part of the US government, and the Thrift Savings Plan, which is the contractor that administers the 401k plan for the government employees. It took like 90 days, but all that matters was the IRS rule. So when I filed my taxes in 2025, I could say in 2024, which was the year I turned 55, my employment was terminated. Yeah. I know that's kind of technical, but they call it the rule of 55, but actually you don't even have to actually be 55. And I currently, as we speak, have full access to my 401k, and I got really lucky. I mean, the last 10 or so years, it really started to take off. Plus, I sold my house. I was living in Rockville, Maryland for the past 17 years, and I bought it actually at the height of the market, but I was lucky to sell it also at the height of the market. And being a FIRE enthusiast and financial independence, retire early, I always overpaid my mortgage, got the interest down by refinancing. So when I sold the house, I had a ton of equity that helps me live my life here.
Right. So the idea is you retired well before you could withdraw your Social Security.
Oh, exactly. I mean, earliest would probably be 62.
But you had the assets to carry you until that time.
Oh, exactly. So technically, I'm just unemployed. And a funny story is that I was at HSBC shortly after I moved here. I had to have my one-time passcode changed. And it was something similar. And there's actually an HSBC literally right next door. So I walk in there, and it took like 3 minutes. The lady was very friendly, speaks very good English and stuff. And while I was there, I said, hey, as long as I'm living here now, maybe I should get a credit card. And I'm still using my US credit cards. And she looked me straight in the eye and said, we're not in the business of issuing credit cards to unemployed foreigners. Because that's what I am, an unemployed foreigner in the eyes of HSBC and the eyes of the US government, because I'm not a pensioner since I'm too young to collect my pension.
Which brings the question, so you're using your US banking and credit cards
now.
now.
Exactly. I mean, we talked about the interest rates are much better here, and even the FDIC insurance that they have here, it's funny, it's 250,000 ringgit as opposed to 250,000 dollars. That just gives an example of how things are just lower in terms of costs, and the ringgit is lower, and it just makes sense to keep my money for the most part in the United States, especially with that 401k, because it's pre-tax money. So when I take the money out, I'm taxed by the US government. So I don't want to take out more money just to leave it here. It just makes sense to leave it in that program.
Until you need it.
Oh, exactly. I take it out every month. It's a standard thing, goes to my bank account.
Right.
And then as needed, I transfer money into one of my local banks here in Malaysia.
So you were living in DC and you
metro area.
had a really good job. You had your own house, car. You were living the American dream.
Exactly. I had it made in many ways.
What made you move overseas? What was that thinking?
I mean, as you said, I had a nice home. I owned it. I had a government job. And actually the last few years of my working career, I worked from home most of the time. I came in maybe every quarter or so for some admin stuff, or if my boss who lived out of town was in town, and I would work, I joke, in my underwear with a cat on my lap. And I'd been at that job for 8 years, so it wasn't really that challenging at that point.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, one could argue I was at the top of the game, the American dream and all that.
Yeah.
But it took getting to the top to realize how soulless it was.
Yeah.
How there was just, I wanted more out of life.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is so superficial, and I could have stayed at the job and I would have been fine. I had health insurance, which is so critical in the United States. But I wanted more to life. I knew there was a whole world out there. I didn't want to be tied to a cube. I mean, in the DC area with the government, we used to call it the golden handcuffs. And it's great. Again, everything was, I had no major problems. I really didn't like the winters, but I would just stay inside. And the DC area lately hasn't really gotten really bitterly cold winters in a few years, which has been great.
Yeah.
But once you reach the point where there was nowhere higher to go for the most part, I realized how empty and soulless it was.
Yeah.
And I enjoy traveling. I done a lot of traveling in Asia. And I would always travel 24 hours on 2 or 3 planes and stuff. And I realized, okay, English is commonly spoken all over the world. US dollars are taken all over the world. The US passport's in the top tier of passports. We can go pretty much anywhere we want. I don't feel like going to Syria or Haiti or North Korea. Yeah. Any place that you really want to go to, chances are you can go with a US passport. You might need a visa, but we have such freedom, and we meaning most Americans, just don't take advantage of it.
Right.
And I just knew there was more in life. And once I learned not only about the rule of 55, but also how much my 401k had grown in the previous 10 years, there was just no turning back.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I'm like I like to say, when I'm in the States, but as you know, I was just in the States recently, I am poor when I'm in the States. I have to get an extra health insurance policy just to cover me, for emergency medical situations.
Yeah.
And things are like, oh my God, I'm a poor man when I'm in the States. But here I'm rich, and I'm the same guy. Bank account is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But the big difference is between the dollar and the ringgit.
Yeah.
Now, since I've been here, the dollar has gone down about give or take 10%.
Yeah.
But the difference between the two currencies is so huge that makes all the difference.
Yeah, you still have the lifestyle here.
I can live like a king. You just saw my apartment. It's huge.
Yeah.
I could never afford an apartment as large as mine. It's 2,400 square feet. I've got 5 toilets. I've got a maid's quarters, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the major reason I have this big place is because I have the cats. It's harder to find an unfurnished apartment. We can go into that.
Yeah.
But I'm living like in an insanely large, fancy apartment where it's literally twice the size of the single family house I moved out of that I sold.
What's interesting about what you said that felt soulless to you is many people think that they're going to get to a point in their life where money's not a problem, they have everything handled, they have the American dream going, and they think that's what's going to make them happy. Yeah. And what you're saying is you were there.
Exactly.
And it wasn't what you really, it wasn't giving you what you
Exactly.
wanted.
As they say, money can't buy you happiness. Yeah. And I was doing well financially if I continued to work. And that's the big key. Here I'm doing well financially by not working.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I had everything. I mean, I wasn't married, but I had, different various girlfriends. But I'm so glad I'm here because I have a new girlfriend that's looking at us right now. She's in the room off camera. And I never would have met her and didn't realize how great a relationship can be. And yes, I'm saying that to her right now.
That's great. That's great. So when people are thinking about moving overseas, fears come up in them. What are some of the fears that came up in you? And did those turn out to be true once you left America?
Well, my biggest fear, which actually has a little bit come true, had nothing to do with moving overseas, but the fear of boredom. Because I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm going to have my cats, I have my amazing girlfriend, and I've met some friends here. There's a really strong expat community. So things are really good, but I do get bored. And especially since my girlfriend and I were spending time together based on her schedule, but her schedule changed and we weren't able to see each other as often. And that's when the emptiness and boredom kind of crept in. Right. So I found I have to make a special effort to go spend time with friends, and I still travel a lot. In fact, we're talking about traveling to Thailand next month, and I'm looking into a trip to India, which would be my 4th trip. And I'm in the middle of planning a trip to Ethiopia in April. Wow. So I have to make an effort to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
But no, the concerns were English. I mean, I'm terrible with languages, and one of the reasons I chose Malaysia and Penang in particular is because English is so widely spoken. But there are occasionally issues where people either don't speak English or they don't understand my English.
Sure.
Because as the viewers probably know, I'm a fast talker.
Yeah.
I try to slow myself down. And that's been somewhat of a frustration. And it's not them, it's me. I'm the foreigner. They're the ones that have learned English as a second language.
Yeah.
So I need to be patient with them not understanding my English. It's my fault, not theirs. And some people crazy warn me, oh no, you're moving to a Muslim country. First of all, Muslims are good people and they're very friendly and they're the majority here. And I don't have a problem with them. I don't care, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the people, and the people are very generous. They're very friendly, very open to foreigners. And actually on the island, there aren't really that many local Malays. There are Malaysians, but for folks that don't know, there's a big difference between Malays and Malaysians. Malaysians are everyone that's a citizen in the country. It's majority Malay, but also a very large percentage of Chinese, Indian, and others.
Yeah.
And every group has been very friendly. And I don't have any major complaints. I guess the biggest one would be the driving. Now, here they drive on the wrong side of the road. In the US and the Philippines, we drive on the right side of the road. But it's not just that. I mean, I've been here about a year and a half, well, actually about a year and 3/4. I visited many times, so I got used to driving on the left side of the road. It's the driving in Penang in particular. We go to the mainland sometimes. It's maybe a 45-minute or so drive. There's an IKEA, they pronounce it IKEA, and we have some friends out there. Once you cross the bridge and you're on the mainland, it's like driving in New Jersey, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's more car drivable and survivable. Here, it's absolutely insane. I won't curse on your channel, so you don't have to bleep me out, but driving on the island has really been a challenge.
Yeah. We just take Uber and the buses and stuff.
Oh, or Grab, you mean, but yeah.
Or Grab, yeah. You've elected to get a Sarawak visa instead of a Peninsular Malaysia visa.
Correct.
What are the current requirements for that, if you know?
I learned that there's another visa program. They don't really advertise very well from Sarawak. So I learned about the requirements and I was able to meet those requirements. So, and I really wanted to live in Penang. So it's a little strange because Sarawak is on the other side of the country. That's where I ended up getting my visa. And the visa requirements were much, much lower. And they've since changed them. My fixed deposit over there was roughly $33,000 or $35,000 US. And now it's gone up to about $125,000 for all new applicants. And that's as of this year. And they also made a change, which a lot of folks that have been there many years are not really happy about, where they're no longer issuing renewals. So once your visa is about to expire, normally you would go through a renewal process and they would grandfather you in for the most part. But now there are no renewals. You have to start from scratch.
So you have to prove the 125 again.
Oh, exactly. And who knows, it could even be higher. You know, I've got about 8 years left. I've got what's called a 5-5. It's a 5-year visa, and then I can extend just once. Right. So assuming you don't get into any trouble and you meet all the requirements and stuff. And the biggest requirement for me now is just spending 30 days a year over there. Great place if you love nature. I don't. You know, nature's great as long as there's air conditioning and stuff like that. And I love watching nature on YouTube. But Kuching is the capital, and it's the only significant city there. And I've gotten to know it. It's kind of grown on me. To be honest, at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's a really sleepy town and all that. And it's kind of hard to break in to the social scene over there. And I can't actually say I've broken in, but I feel like I've made some progress. I've got some friends. I feel comfortable there. I have the restaurants I go to the shops and stuff. I know the neighborhoods where I like to stay. So I'm required to spend a minimum of 30 days in Kuching, or no, in Sarawak, but the big airport and the way to get in and out of there is Kuching, and that's where I spend the most amount of my time when I'm on the ground there.
Right.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
And the other requirements, like you have to have proof insurance?
Oh, exactly. So what's strange, there are different programs. The one I'm on is age 50 or above.
Okay.
So I need to have a minimum amount of insurance. And in my case, it's 2 weeks of hospitalization, and it cost me about $120 US a year. I know the Americans are going to be like, "Oh my God!" Now, I mean, it's a very basic policy, but $120 a year. I mean, that's like probably 10% of what people would pay per month in the United States. But there's a weird quirk because with the program I'm on, it's 50 and above. But once I turn 60, I'm no longer required to have that insurance. I don't really understand that rule. And to be clear, I know I sound like I'm critical. I am so appreciative of the Sarawak folks who are giving me this opportunity. I don't want to sound like I'm, criticizing or resent them at all. They've been amazing. And it is a great program because I would never have even heard of Sarawak. And it gives me an opportunity to learn about their culture. And I travel there. Usually I stay about 1 or 2 weeks at a time. I come back here. You can break up to 30 days.
So when you turn 60, does the deposit amount change?
No, nothing changes with the deposit. But the only thing is I no longer am required to have the insurance.
And you don't need to buy a house.
Oh, correct. In Sarawak, you don't. Sarawak 1 does not require property.
So have you used medical here?
Oh, yes, actually, I've had 3 minor surgical procedures, and just in the past few months. And one of them was for potential skin cancer, and 2 were for a shoulder injury. And one was actually just about 2 weeks ago. And the medical care here has been top notch. And when I first got here, I did the typical foreigner, Westerner thing. I went for one of those full body scans and blood and all that stuff, X-ray, and I was glowing in the dark from all the scans they did. But it was a really good idea because I've got some friends from Alaska that were visiting about a year ago, and it turns out she did, the 2 of them, man and woman, they did the full scans, and it turns out she had breast cancer. And she had no known symptoms. So it's a really good thing to do. Yeah. And by US standards, the dollar amount was so minor. Yeah. And for the last 3 surgical procedures I had, each one, including the surgery room, the anesthesia, it was just local, I wasn't knocked out. Yeah. And the doctor and the surgeon, everything, roughly $500 US. And the doctors all speak English, they all have top-notch equipment, and most of them were trained in Australia or the UK. And I mean, this is a medical tourism center, not just Malaysia, but Penang and also KL. Yeah. KL, of course, is the bigger city. Right. But a lot of folks fly in here to have medical care. So this is a great place to go for medical care and a great place to retire because the medical care is so inexpensive and so high quality and English speaking. Yeah.
What's it running you a month here, all in? Probably going to be $20,000 a month in New York City.
Oh, exactly. It would just be, actually, I should talk to my sister who lives in New York City and see what she says, but she's never actually been here. I've just shown her the video. Yeah. But my budget is roughly about $3,000. And actually, I don't know if you'll appreciate this or not, but I really have followed you for years, and I've read your reports and stuff, and you're gonna either laugh or be angry, I don't know. But whenever you give a dollar amount on your videos, I double them. Because like I don't go to wet markets, and I like to eat out, and the supermarkets I tend to go to are Mercado, which is right next door, which it's air conditioned, and most of the foods I like are frozen foods from Australia. I'm not living the Dan life, I'm living the Eric life.
No, there's a world for everyone.
Oh, exactly. So I am living alone, and I spend $3,000. I mean, in the US, especially places like New York where I grew up, or Washington, DC, where I spent most of my career, that would be like poverty line. Now I do roughly estimate about $1,000 extra, which I'm not including the $3,000 for travel. Like I was in Botswana a few months ago on a safari, and I just got back from the States, and a few months earlier I was in Europe. And I can afford to do all this traveling because, not because I'm so wealthy, but because my living expenses here by US standards are so low. So in the apartment's about $1,000, roughly. It's funny, I do eat out a lot, but interestingly, it's cheaper here to eat out at the local restaurants than it does to go to the grocery store. Mostly because I'm vegan and I don't cook. So I'll go to the grocery store and I'll buy a lot of the frozen foods. I'm big on, even in the States, freezer to microwave to plates. And that costs a lot. I mean, you get food made in Australia, it's shipping, you got to pay for electricity for the freezer. I mean, and it's probably not as healthy. But I'll get a big plate of food, and these are vegan restaurants, and I'm vegan, and I get a stack of food, and it's like maybe $10. And that's if I'm really like piling it on. A typical dish there is like maybe in dollars, $4 or $5. I feel like I'm stealing from them, and it's 10 times as much to take to take Uber in the US than to take Grab here. Yeah. So things are just so inexpensive, and $3,000 for most people living here is like a luxury. I mean, I live like an American, and I mean, you can put this on. I mean, I don't live like a Malaysian, and I don't mean to sound like a snob, but I live a very American-style lifestyle. And you want to live the American dream? Move to Malaysia. I'm not anti-American at all, but America has almost become unlivable. And just people are so polarized. And I just find that really sad. And living here, I'm able to divorce myself from it and actually relax.
That's great. Well, Eric, thanks for coming on the channel and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I mean, it's a pleasure. I've been following you for years. You've been such an inspiration. You were the top 5 of the ones that really pushed me over the edge, got me off the couch, and got me into this amazing life I'm now leading. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, if you're curious about meeting Eric's girlfriend, Nikki, go on over here right now and watch those 2. And while you're over there, subscribe. That's Chung's channel. Thanks for watching.